Welcome to Insights. I'm Adam Rivers.
And I'm Sarah Collins. In this episode, we'll reflect carefully on the Qur'an verse by verse, focusing on wording, context, and coherence.
And we want to speak directly to you today, the listener, because for the next 35 to 40 minutes, we are setting out on a very specific mission for this episode. We are going to spend our time entirely unpacking Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 8. And I have to say, this is just an incredibly profound moment in the revelation.
It really is. It's one of those verses that it just grabs you. It peels back the layers of human psychology in a way that is almost uncomfortable.
Yeah, uncomfortable is exactly the right word for it.
Right, because it forces us to look past what people say, past those carefully constructed facades we all see, and it examines the actual architecture of truth.
Truth, sincerity, and self-deception, which is huge.
Exactly. So our goal today is to break this down, literally word by word in some places, to help you understand the staggering weight this verse carries.
But to really get that weight, we can't just drop verse 8 in a vacuum, right? We absolutely need to look at what comes before it.
We have to. The context is everything here.
So if you look at the opening verses of this surah, the revelation establishes these crystal clear definitions. It sets up two totally undeniable extremes. First, you have the sincere believers.
And the Quran describes them so beautifully. It describes them as interacting with guidance as if it's solid ground, like they are physically standing on it.
Right, they have a faith in the unseen that precedes physical sight. They maintain this internal uprightness.
And they liberate their wealth from hoarding by giving to others. They're completely internally aligned. Their inside matches their outside perfectly.
Exactly. And then immediately the revelation contrasts them with a second group. The clear rejectors.
Right, the people who've just entirely closed themselves off.
Yeah, warnings make zero difference to them. And again, their inside matches their outside. They don't believe, and they don't pretend to believe. You know exactly where they stand.
But then, suddenly, verse 8 hits.
It's a total curveball.
It really is.
Yeah.
Suddenly, this complex, deeply hidden third category is introduced: the people who wear the mask of faith.
And the way this is introduced in the Arabic is just, it's fascinating. Let's look at the specific opening phrase of this verse. It says, end of the people.
Wamin anas.
Wamin anas. What is so striking here is what the Quran does not say.
Right.
It doesn't say, end of the disbelievers.
It doesn't even say, end of the hypocrites.
Exactly. It deliberately places this whole phenomenon within the general human framework. It uses the word people, a term that includes all of us.
Which is terrifying, honestly.
It is. It places this massive structural issue squarely in the messy, complicated arena of everyday human society.
And we need to explain why that wording is so deliberate and why it matters to you right now. By saying end of the people, the revelation is showing us that this isn't about some external enemy.
Right. It's not an army outside the gates.
No, you can't just point a finger at some heavily armored villain. It's a universal psychological vulnerability. It's a social disease.
A disease that can slip into anyone's heart, really.
Absolutely. Whenever personal interests clash with the truth, whenever belonging to a community, whether it's a community of faith or just a community of values, whenever that becomes a social advantage or a political shield.
Or even just a networking card.
Exactly. When that happens, the temptation to wear a mask becomes a fundamentally human struggle. It's not just a historical footnote.
Yeah, it's an active vulnerability right now. It is the ultimate Trojan horse, the quiet vulnerability inside the city walls.
Which leads us to the grammar here, because the grammar adds such a brilliant layer to how we are supposed to process this reality.
Yes. Let's get into the weeds a bit. The grammatical use of the word min in that opening phrase.
Which translates to some of.
Right. In Arabic grammar, this is the min of partition, meaning the Quran isn't making a sweeping, cynical statement about all of humanity. It is highlighting a beautiful balance. It's teaching you how to walk through life. On one hand, it's warning you not to offer blind trust to absolutely everyone who speaks well.
Because we all know people who use the right ethical vocabulary.
Oh, absolutely. But on the other hand, the revelations stop you from falling into the dark pit of universal suspicion.
Because it clearly specifies only some people.
Yes, some people.
That calibration is incredible. It perfectly calibrates our social awareness. It stops you from swallowing the bait of blind trust.
We've all been there. You meet someone, they say all the right things, they quote the right verses.
And you just assume they're completely sincere.
Yeah, and the Quran is saying, wake up. Pay attention.
But at the exact same time, it saves you from the toxic swamp of paranoia.
Or you doubt every single person around you.
Right, where you become a cynic. The revelation demands an active, just vigilance. You navigate the world knowing this mask exists among some of the people.
Which keeps your mind sharp.
It keeps your boundaries healthy, but it prevents you from poisoning your heart against society as a whole.
That balance is vital, especially today when it is so easy to just become utterly cynical about human nature in general.
Absolutely.
So, moving into the second major section of our outline here, let's dissect the next phrase. Who say?
Maniacul.
Maniacul. Think about the deep significance of this. The verse defines this entire group of people strictly by their speech.
Not their actions.
Exactly. Not their charity, not their resilience. It reduces their entire identity down to the mere act of speaking.
They rely completely on manufacturing an image.
Yes, rather than building an actual internal reality.
This raises a profoundly important question about where a person's center of gravity lies. When the Quran chooses says instead of believes or acts or strives, it puts its finger directly on the bleeding root of the problem.
Values and faith just become disconnected language.
Right. When words are used purely for social currency, they become tools to cover up the truth. They aren't gateways to guidance anymore.
They are a disguise.
Exactly. This is the extreme danger of living entirely for the image. Because a grounded person, someone with true internal reality, they don't need to constantly talk about it.
Their character speaks for itself.
Right. Their quiet consistency is enough. But the person living in an empty shell, they have to constantly hang a massive neon billboard on a vacant building.
Just to convince people walking by that something valuable is inside.
Exactly. The billboard analogy is perfect.
I mean, we see this everywhere. Think about certain corporate cultures. The person doing the actual work is usually quiet.
Always.
But the person faking it, you're in every single meeting going, I'm a team player.
Yeah.
I am so passionate about our mission.
They have to speak it into existence because the reality isn't there.
And this brings us to a crucial linguistic layer. We have to point out the use of the present tense in Arabic here.
Yes, the word yakul.
Yakul is in the present tense. And in Arabic, the present tense implies continuous, ongoing action.
This is such a brilliant psychological insight. The present tense isn't just about time here. It is a description of sheer exhaustion.
It really is.
The person living behind a mask lacks internal stability, so they must constantly verbally reinforce their image. They are trapped in a loop.
A loop of vocalization. Because the need to hide is a renewable burden.
Exactly. A sincere person just acts over time. But the fake person, they have to wake up every single day, look in the mirror, and verbally reapply the mask.
So it doesn't slip.
Right. They have to constantly remind the audience of who they're supposed to be.
That just sounds miserable. But wait, I want to pause on this. I want to ask you a question about the contrast here.
Sure.
If they're constantly speaking in this ongoing present tense, why do they use the specific phrasing they do? Because the exact word they speak is, we believe.
Amanna.
Right, Amanna. And that word is in the past tense.
Yes.
So they're using a present continuous verb. They're constantly saying to make a claim about an accomplished, finalized past.
It's a paradox.
Why wouldn't they just say, we are believing in the present tense to match? Why risk using the past tense?
That is the ultimate linguistic paradox of this verse, and it totally exposes their strategy. When they claim, we believed, in the definitive past tense, they are trying to put an undeniable stamp on it. Think about human behavior when we want to avoid scrutiny. We announce the final results, right? We don't explain the ongoing methodology.
Right, because if they said we are believing, it implies a process.
It implies a struggle, a state of being that is currently subject to evaluation. It could be tested, it could fail.
But by declaring we believed in the past tense,
they lock the door to any investigation. They are essentially saying the paperwork is filed, the transaction is complete, the ink is dry, so don't ask us any more questions.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
To make this relatable for you listening, it's like someone constantly declaring, I have already achieved goodness.
Yes.
They do it just to completely shut down any requirement for actual moral effort. They claim they have already crossed the finish line to avoid the journey.
Exactly. They declare, I am an honest person, instead of doing the quiet work and actually proving honesty when tempted.
By claiming the past tense, they present their faith as an undeniable historical fact, not a living, breathing reality that requires constant proof.
They want the social benefits of the destination without taking a single step on the journey.
Wow.
And that brings us directly to the third main section of our outline, the specific slogans they choose to use.
In Allah and the Last Day.
Right. We have to ask, why did they select these two specific pillars of faith out of everything mentioned in the surrounding verses?
It's a great question. Because the earlier verses describe believers who give their wealth to charity, who establish prayer, who believe in the unseen.
But this group skips all of those actionable, demanding details.
They go straight for the broadest possible, most sweeping claim. It's the path of least resistance.
Absolutely.
This phrase represents the absolute minimum requirement to gain social acceptance in a community of believers. It gives them a safe identity.
Because saying, we believe in Allah and the last day, is massive, but it doesn't immediately obligate you to empty your wallet for the poor.
Right, they didn't force you to wake up in the cold night to pray.
It is a brilliant, deeply manipulative social strategy. They know a faithful society naturally respects anyone who invokes these sacred concepts.
It's the ultimate linguistic safe pass.
It sounds incredibly pious, but it demands zero immediate behavioral evidence.
But let's dive deep into the tragic irony of how they invoke Allah.
This part is so crucial.
Because true faith means placing the ultimate supreme authority above your own ego, above your fleeting desires.
Above your worldly ambitions, it is total surrender.
Right. But the individual wearing the mask flips this concept completely on its head. They aren't submitting to that ultimate authority at all.
No, they are using the name of Allah as a shield. They use it as a tool to serve their own social or political ambitions.
It's a staggering inversion of reality. They take the highest possible concept in existence and try to make it a servant to their own petty self-interest.
And claiming belief in the ultimate creator means you must acknowledge a power that sees exactly what you do in the dark.
Behind closed doors.
Right. It demands profound internal humility. But the mask wearer doesn't want humility. They want the shiny social medal of virtue pinned securely to their chest.
They use the name of the divine to bypass the painful work of actually becoming divine-like in their character. The sacred is just a bargaining chip to them.
And the irony only deepens when we analyze their second claim, believing in the last day.
The last day. Let's talk about what that actually represents in the Quran.
It represents the terrifying, inescapable reality of ultimate accountability. It is the definitive moment where all masks finally fall away.
Where absolute truth is laid bare.
Exactly. And where no amount of eloquent speech can save you from what your hands have actually done. By definition, it is the ultimate anti-mask concept.
Which just points out this massive internal contradiction.
It's almost comical.
It really is. If someone truly believed in a day of absolute exposure, a day where every hidden motive, every whispered lie is projected for all to see, they wouldn't dare build their entire life on a foundation of deception.
They couldn't.
No. They're using the concept of the afterlife merely as social decoration. It is completely stripped of its ethical weight.
Because if you genuinely believe in a day of absolute reckoning, that belief naturally restricts your behavior. It makes you fear taking what isn't yours.
It makes your tongue hesitate before telling a lie.
But to claim belief in that day while actively living a life of deceit, it means you treat the last day merely as cultural vocabulary, not a looming reality.
And that contradiction is exactly why the revelation responds the way it does. Which brings us to the fourth major section of the episode.
The devastating conclusion of this verse.
Yes. After this group makes their grand, sweeping claim, the Quran delivers its verdict.
But they are not believers. By mu'mineen.
We really need to break down the heavy linguistic emphasis used in this negation, because it isn't just a simple, casual no.
The Arabic wording uses a dense layering of compounding grammatical tools to completely surgically strip the title away from them.
And this is where I need you to clarify the technical side for us, because the Arabic here is incredibly specific. Could you explain exactly how this negation is built?
I would love to.
Why is it so much heavier than just saying, they don't believe?
The structural intensity is breathtaking. Normally, you could negate a statement with a single word. But here, the Quran uses a layered approach. It starts with ma for negation.
Which is strong on its own.
Right. Then it is followed by hum, which isolates them. It points directly at them as a distinct group.
Yeah.
Then comes the crucial part, the letter ba attached to the word mu'minin. In Arabic grammar, adding this specific ba to the predicate of a negative sentence strongly cements and intensifies the negation.
So it's not just They are not.
It is the equivalent of saying they are absolutely, unequivocally, categorically not. And finally, it uses the noun form believers rather than a verb.
So what is the difference between denying them the verb versus denying them the noun? Why does that matter?
Denying the verb would mean saying they are not acting like believers right now, which leaves room for the idea that they might usually be believers but are just slipping up.
Oh, wow.
But by denying the noun, the settled identity, it cuts entirely through the noise. It doesn't just say they are weak in faith. It entirely denies them the settled identity of being believers.
No matter how loudly they claim the title.
Exactly. The reality of that title simply does not belong to them.
That is devastating. And if we explore the linguistic root of that Arabic word for faith, we see exactly why this denial has to be absolute.
Yes, let's look at the root.
The word mu'minin comes from the root word am. And am revolves entirely around the core concepts of security and safety.
This is a huge point.
True faith brings deep, unshakable internal peace to the individual. And crucially, it radiates safety to the community around the believer.
When someone possesses true am, you are safe from their deceit. You are safe from their betrayal. You know their inner truth perfectly matches their outer reality.
But we have to contrast that with the hypocrite.
Who operates as the exact polar opposite? The person wearing a mask is internally terrified of being exposed. They have zero internal security.
Their psychological state is just constant anxiety.
Always managing their lies. Always checking if their cover is blown. Trying to remember which version of themselves they presented to which group.
And because they lack internal security, they project that insecurity outward. They create a society filled with suspicion.
The social damage caused by this dynamic is immense. We spend a lot of time discussing individual damage, but the community impact is staggering.
It really is. When people repeatedly see individuals loudly claiming faith, using the vocabulary of ethics, but secretly acting with cruelty or deceit,
The community eventually breaks down.
people start hearing beautiful concepts like truth and justice, and they respond with deep cynicism.
The mask wearer pollutes the very meaning of goodness for everyone else. They make it incredibly difficult for true sincerity to ever be recognized.
Because they've trained society to view every declaration of virtue as a potential scam.
Exactly. And this is precisely why the Qur'an's negation is so incredibly forceful here. It isn't just punishing the individual. It is actively protecting the integrity of the entire community.
It is drawing an uncrossable boundary between genuine pursuit of truth and the opportunistic hijacking of religious language.
If the revelation allowed these mask wearers to keep the prestigious title of believers, the foundation of the community's trust would collapse from the inside out.
The standard of truth would be entirely corrupted.
Right.
Now, for our fifth section, I want to draw your attention to a fascinating shift in pronouns within this verse.
This is one of my favorite
The
details.
verse starts by referring to the individual in the singular who says, but then it quotes them hiding behind the plural. We believe.
The individual says in the singular, but the claim is we.
It is not a grammatical accident. This is a highly intentional structural choice that reveals how this specific personality operates. Let's unpack the psychological game at play.
The individual wearing a mask desperately wants to melt into the larger group. By using the collective we, they are actively seeking protection, anonymity, social validation.
They are borrowing the credibility of authentic believers.
Right. They wrap themselves in the collective identity of the crowd. It's a subtle attempt to say, look, I'm part of the team. Don't look too closely at me as an individual.
The collective we provides the perfect camouflage for their individual emptiness. It highlights the cowardice of it all.
But the Qur'an forcefully isolates them.
Yes. By using the singular who says, the revelation pulls them right out of that protective crowd. It strips away the camouflage.
It reminds us that before the ultimate truth, every single person stands completely alone with their own private intentions.
You cannot borrow someone else's sincerity. You cannot hide your individual hypocrisy behind the collective piety of your family or your society.
It is a sobering reminder of ultimate individual accountability. The collective we might save you in everyday social situations.
It might help you get the job or maintain community standing.
But in the realm of absolute truth, the we dissolves. The revelation individualizes the deceiver, spotlighting the terrifying reality that true evaluation is always a one-on-one encounter.
You cannot bring the crowd with you to answer for your own heart.
You really can't.
And as we enter the final analytical section of the episode, we need to make a very hard pivot.
A very necessary pivot.
We've spent a lot of time analyzing the psychology of the mask wearer out in society. But now we're going to turn the mirror strictly inward.
Yes.
We want to make it very, very clear to you, the listener. This verse in the Quran is absolutely not a license to start spying on others.
It is not a hunting license.
It is not an invitation to go look for hypocrites in your workplace. It is incredibly tempting to listen to this analysis and start attaching the faces of people you know to this category.
Oh, that sounds just like my coworker. Or that is exactly what that politician does.
But doing that defeats the entire transformative purpose of this profound revelation.
I couldn't agree more. Instead, we want to gently but firmly guide you to use this verse as a profound tool for self-reflection.
The real danger isn't the hypocrite sitting next to you. The real danger is the seed of hypocrisy quietly taking root inside your own heart.
We need to ask ourselves some deeply challenging questions based on this verse. Do you maintain an eloquent relationship with faith in public, but a completely hollow one in private?
When you speak loudly about justice or belief in front of an audience, does it actually match your reality when the audience is gone?
Do your actions align with your well-polished words when absolutely no one is watching?
Are you using the vocabulary of goodness merely as social currency, or is it the genuine fruit of your own internal labor?
We have to seriously discuss the extreme danger of self-deception here.
If we repeat a slogan enough times without ever acting upon it, we might actually fall asleep to our own hypocrisy.
We start believing our own press releases. We believe the mask is our real face. And that is the most terrifying aspect of this state.
When you lie to the world long enough, the ultimate victim is your own soul.
You become convinced that because you know the right words, you must possess the right reality. And once that self-deception sets in, true reform becomes nearly impossible.
You cannot fix a disease you categorically refuse to admit you have.
You walk around thinking you are awake, but you are sleepwalking through your spiritual life.
To end the main discussion, we want to leave you with a provocative thought about freedom, because this builds on everything we've just unpacked. The true believer is entirely free because they seek validation only from the ultimate truth.
They don't need the crowd's applause to know who they are.
Exactly. In contrast, the person living a lie is a miserable slave to their own image. They are entirely dependent on the shifting opinions of people.
They are trapped in that continuous present-tense labor of faking an identity. It's an exhausting way to live.
It truly is. Seeking validation from people makes you their prisoner. Seeking validation from the ultimate truth makes you free. That's it for this episode of Insights.
If you found this reflection helpful, follow the show and join us next time as we continue verse by verse in the Qur'an.
Until then, take one idea from this verse into your day.